Shalom and good day all, this is Tehillim29 back again for another indie comic review. And in this indie comic review I am reviewing Blackbox Comics, Kage, issues 4 and issue 5. Hopefully in the future I'll have issues 6 and 7 covered on the channel. So this is a series that I have been following. I've managed to get a hold of the first trade paperback connected to the first 3 issues, and I'm really looking forward to reviewing these issues on the channel. So starting off with first things first, it's time to move on to covering issue 4 before issue 5. So, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside of the story? Sure enough it does, but I actually gave it a 7.5 out of 10, just to how the story came across in the internal art. So I'll now move into showing the internal art, as well as some of the things that are happening in regards to the story. We'll get to see some art around the beginning, middle and end. Now moving into the beginning of the story, we have the main character who is called Hachiro. We get a little bit of a flashback as to what happens 2 weeks ago in this story. And of course, on top of this, he's also getting a new tattoo. We get a bit of a flashback of some of the things that he's been a part of. And surprisingly to see, as we move into the middle of the story, we have Hachiro go and confront the character known as Eichi. And this person also carried over from the last 3 issues, or actually appeared in the last 3 issues, as sort of like one of the underlings as to the master. And of course a bit of a fight starts to take out. And last but not least, towards the end of the comic, to which we also encounter some other characters connected to the previous comics, to which I'll cover later on in regards to the story and its rating. So for the internal art, I gave it an 8 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the story rating. And as you know, I do enjoy certain things that show up in stories. And starting off with first things first, did we get any comic references to any of the previous issues? No, we didn't, but trust me, this issue and also the next issue needed it. In regards to the area of time, we had, of course, 2 weeks ago, and that pretty much showed up on the first page when you come into the story. And of course we have like the location, and also in the time we also had present day show up, something I forgot, my error. The cast of characters consisting of Hachiro, Eichi. We also had another somewhat a berserker or brute type character, and his name was called Kazu. And Hachiro in a way gets his ass whooped by the character. And we also have, I think it's the character of Kiyoshi, who's also mentioned, but and also somewhat see. So the overall story rating was an 8 out of 10. It's time to move on to the next issue. So, jumping into the next issue and its cover. Does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside of the story? Sure enough, it does, because it also reflects around this certain mask that is also used in the story and the character behind it, to which I give it an 8 out of 10. I'll now move into the internal art, which we'll get to see some of the internal things that are happening inside of the story, looking around the beginning, middle, and end. So as we begin to move into some of the art around the story, we've got the character of Hachiro, and it seems to be like a bit of a dream state that he's in, but it's not very clearly pointed out that it is. And we get to see something sort of like connected to some of his teachings in the past. And we finally have Hachiro wake up, and in the presence of those that he met in the last issue. Jumping into the middle of the story, we get a bit of a talk about the past, and also, if I remember, this character is also meant to be the main character's father, to which he ends up being killed off and betrayed by one of the members within the group, to which he was, to which the main character was presently working with. And last but not least, towards the end of the story, to which we see the person who's connected to that mask finally takes off their mask in talking with Hachiro. For the internal art, I gave it an 8 out of 10. Now it's time to jump to the story rating. And first things first, did we get any comic references to any of the previous comics? No, we didn't. Again, it still would not help. It still would help to include it. Moving into the area of time, trust me, this issue really needed it. I think it would have really worked in regards to the flashback, and also talking about the history. That's one error that I felt like it missed out on, and it could have really improved on that. Of course, we know the location. We are still in Japan. The cast of characters not only spoken about, but also met in the story. Hachiro, Master Shoma, Kiyoshi, Eiichi, who we actually learned was the person who betrayed Hachiro's father, and last but not least, the character of Makato. Giving this story an overall rating of 7.5 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.